You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Hey, counselor friend. Did you spend last semester in fight or flight mode, barely surviving? Well, it's a new year and it can be different. I want you to join me for a free training on how to thrive instead of survive this semester. I'll be sharing exactly what you should be doing at each tier, and I'll be including a free planning guide and curriculum map. All attendees also get a PD certificate. I really hope you'll join me. I'm offering 2 times. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/thrive to sign up. See you there. Hey there, you're listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. I hope your January is off to a great start, and I hope you're enjoying our podcast series on tiers without tears. So what I'm referring to is the 3 tiers of school counseling. So you have that tier 1 intervention where you're seeing all students, and then you have your tier 2, which is going to be referral-based, like groups, and then tier 1, even more high need students, also referral-based individual counseling. Now you might be thinking, whoa, rewind, what is she talking about? And that's exactly why I'm doing this series. So I want to break this down for you guys so it doesn't feel overwhelming and so you know exactly what you need to be doing, who you need to be seeing. Okay, so if you didn't listen to last week's episode, go ahead and head over there because like I said, I talk all about tier 1 class lessons. Now I lump tier 2 and 3 together because they have some similarities. Unlike our class lessons where we're going in and we're seeing all the students and a preventative measure, these are referral based. So you might be thinking, okay, what does that mean? How do I get referrals? So what I like to do is come up with a little referral form, and I have a referral form for you guys. I'll link in the show notes. But you have the referral form, print them out, keep them everywhere. You give them directly to teachers, put some in the teachers' mailboxes, in the staff lounge, in the front office so parents can grab them. Have a digital version on your school website. Have like QR codes, like need to see the counselor, scan here, anywhere you can get them. This is a great way to organize things and way better than getting stopped in the hall every 2 seconds. And you're like, oh yeah, I'll see that kid, hold on, let me remember. Or a parent stopping you at car rider line. Instead, you can just always send them to the referral form. This way you can stay a little more organized. So what you're going to gather on that form is the student's name, some information like grade level, teacher, things like that. And then you want to find out their area of need. So why is this person referring them? Why do they think they need counseling? You can also ask who's referring them. Is this the parent, the teacher, the principal? Is it the student themselves? And then the severity of the referral. So is this a high need situation, or is this just like see me when you can, one-time thing? Now, once you gather the referrals, this is where you're going to start to see some trends. You might be like, oh my goodness, I'm getting a lot of 3rd grade referrals for self-regulation. So this is how a group is born. You can do a self-regulation small group, and using these referrals, these kids have similar needs, and it's also helpful if they're, in the similar grade level. You don't want to have a group with like kinder and 5th grade. But you're like, okay, they're the same grade, they have a similar need, let's do a group. So that's kind of how you can find students for your group. Now, you may be getting referrals, and you're like, well, I just got one referral, the student's parents are going through a divorce. If you have other students whose parents are going through a divorce, you could do a divorce group. But let's say it's just one student, or if it's a sensitive topic, maybe they're, grieving the loss of someone close to them, something like that, maybe you just want to do a one-on-one. So based on the severity level, and if there's other people who have similar needs, that's how you'll determine who is in individual counseling. Now you might be thinking, okay, I've got my groups, I've got my individuals, now when do I see them? So I always recommend scheduling your groups and individual sessions to meet every week, once a week for like 30 minutes. This I find to be a really good amount of time, and 6 to 8 weeks is the recommended duration for the group. You don't want to go longer than that because you want to measure your group with data. Now I could do an entire episode on data, and I have. So if you want to learn more about data, just go back and listen to some old episodes. But I'll give you a little snippet here, a little teaser, if you will. But a way you can measure the progress of your group is by using a self-assessment or a behavior survey. So you can, do a student self-assessment to see how they understand the group topics pre and post group and measure their progress that way. Or you can send out behavior surveys to ask teachers and parents how the student's behaving before and after the group, and you can measure progress that way. So those are some ways you can measure the progress at the 6 to 8 week mark, and then you'll decide if you're going to continue services or if they're good to go, if they've improved and no longer need your services. So remember, everything we do in school counseling, we want to be data-driven and intentional, right? We don't just want to be randomly doing stuff. I'll have counselors tell me sometimes like, ooh, I really like this anxiety group I found. I want to do an anxiety group. And I, like I said, always do referral-based. So if I'm getting anxiety referrals and then I see a cool anxiety group, cool, let's do that. But I'm not going to just start a group and kind of like recruit kids for the anxiety group, if you will. I mean, you can do this. If you are going to do this, I would recommend just sending an email out to teachers like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this kind of group this year. Do you have anyone that fits? But that likely won't be necessary because you're likely going to be getting so many referrals that you're going to have plenty of groups to schedule based on the ones that you already have. This goes the same with individuals. I'm sure you'll be getting plenty of referrals, so no need to recruit kiddos. Now, a lot of times counselors will ask me, well, I have so many individual students, like I don't know what to do. It's taking up so much of my time. And that's where I really love and encourage counselors to do small groups, because it's a great way to extend your reach and it's a great way to see more students at once. So unless it's a really, personal, high specific need that the student needs and they really need that one-on-one, because certainly some students do need the one-on-one. But a lot of times a parent or teacher will want you to see someone one-on-one, but you can push back a little and say, you know what, let's try the group first. We have kids with similar needs. And the group's great. The kids open up, they learn from one another. Just being in a group itself is a great way for students to practice social skills, empathy, perspective taking, things like that. So even if you're not doing an empathy or social skills group, those are skills that they're still learning just by being in the small group setting. So now you're thinking, okay, I know who's in my group. I know a little bit about data collection. I know we're scheduling my group, how long we're going to meet. Now, what am I actually doing in the group sessions? So this is one of those things, you don't always learn this stuff in grad school, right? We're kind of like thrown into a group and we're like, now what? Or thrown into individual sessions and thinking, now what? So what I'm going to give you is like a little, what I call the anatomy of a small group, and it's pretty much the same for an individual session as well. But you always want to start off with some kind of icebreaker to get everyone loosened up, especially during the first session. You can even devote the entire first session just to icebreakers, just to building rapport. But then I still like to do an icebreaker at the start of each session. And then we'll have some kind of discussion. So you can kind of use a discussion die, Jenga, discussion beach ball, there's discussion cards. There's a tons of different ways you can get discussion going. So just kind of start discussing the topic that you're going to talk about that day. If they've ever been in a similar situation, something like that. And then there's the main activities. So this is where you'll do the main activity. So for example, let's say that you're working on friendship. The activity may be where they're sorting, they're cutting and pasting and sorting between qualities of a healthy friendship and qualities of an unhealthy friendship, something like that. So that would be the actual activity that you're doing. And then afterwards, you always want to allow time for some reflection. So this could be verbal reflection, it could be journaling, anything like that, just to really get them to self-reflect what they've learned during the session. So the individual outline, the anatomy of the individual, it's pretty much the same as the group. The only difference is the discussion portion may be a little more limited, because if it's just you and one student, the discussion is not going to take up as much time. You can still do a few discussion questions to kind of pick their brain. Something I do love doing in one-on-one sessions is board games. So it's always fun to, roll the die, you land on different spaces, and then based on what you land on, you have to talk about it. So that's always fun. Sometimes with the one-on-ones, you can get really creative on what you do because it's only one mess to clean up. So you can do a craft or something really creative and fun because there's only one student. You're not doing like 8 copies of everything, if that makes sense. So, okay, this is a shorty episode. I just wanted to leave you guys with some actionable takeaways. If you're thinking like, oh my gosh, new semester, I'm overwhelmed, where do I start? Start with some groups and individual sessions. Gather your referrals, get organized, and get going. So you're going to do great. I want to remind you guys, tonight I'm doing a free live training. Now, if you liked this week and last week's episode, you are going to love this training. It's called How to Thrive Instead of Survive this semester. And I'm going to be telling you what exactly you should be doing at each tier. So this was kind of a sneak preview, but I'll be diving deeper into that, of course, with some images and stuff. And it's always fun to get on these calls because there's a really lively chat. Like, we'll have hundreds of counselors join and everyone's in the chat sharing. So you're not just hearing from me, but there's other counselors in there as well that I'm always learning from. So I think you're going to love it. I'm going to show you how to organize, set up, and deliver those class lessons, small groups, and individual sessions, how to source lesson topics and choose engaging and effective activities, including things like needs assessments and data, like I briefly mentioned here. That way you can find topics that are meaningful and fun. And then I'll show you how to use a curriculum map to lesson plan for the entire semester. And the best part is that I'm giving you the curriculum map for free. So for showing up for the training, you get a planning guide and a curriculum map. We'll create them together so you can feel confident and prepared that you know you're reaching students across all 3 tiers. So if you were overwhelmed last semester, if you feel like you're like, ooh, I'm ready for a fresh start, I feel that, I'm here for you, you're gonna love it. So like I said, it's a free training, How to Thrive Instead of Survive this semester. The times are tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, and then we have tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I tried to do some different times there. To meet people. I know we have people from all over the country and even other parts of the world who join us, but I try to have some variable times there. So join me tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. Go to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/thrive. If that time doesn't work for you, hopefully you can join us tomorrow at 1 as well. Sometimes counselors are hopping on at their lunch break or whatever at school from their car, wherever. We just want you to be there. That would be awesome. And like I said, for showing up, you get that free planning guide and curriculum map along with a PD certificate. So if you're looking to start 2025 off right, you're going to love this training. So save your seat, stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/thrive. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.